If you like audiobooks or audio shows, check out a free trial of Audible. Just click the link in the description.
This is MINDSHOCK True Crime. You are listening to the Steven Avery series, Part 6, Critical Conflicts 2. This is your host, Bruce McGuire.
And Maxwell Powers.
And Johnny Mills.
And if you like our podcast, make sure you're subscribed. Hit the bell for notifications of updates. And you could also donate to our PayPal. Just check the link in the description. And check us out on social media, Facebook, Reddit, Twitter, and Patreon. So, a lot of new developments in the case. But before we get to those, and our DNA episode, which will definitely be the next one, and we will be going over all of the DNA testing and how DNA is tested to kind of address all of these assumptions and conclusions people are jumping to kind of make decisions about the case, which are very fallacious. Isn't that right, Maxwell?
Maybe.
Johnny, what do you think? People jump into conclusions in this case?
Yeah, I think so.
There's a lot
Pretty
of...
quickly, too.
Yeah, there's like a lot of dearth of critical thinking on social media. And what I've noticed is people were saying, well, who cares if the DNA is planted? The lab confirmed it was Avery's. And I'm like, wait a second here. Wait a second. If you're saying, because they're like, who cares if the cops are lying? Because the independent crime lab said the DNA was Avery's. And I'm like, but wait a second. If the DNA is planted, how does that prove Avery killed her? And then usually they're like, oh, well, he just did it. I know he did it. Like, look at the look in his eyes.
There's no
I'm like, wait a second. Or like he's avoiding, there's been some recent trolls trolling the YouTube comments. Like, he avoided a lie detector test. Well, no, he didn't. Who's going to administer the test? If you were put in prison for 18 years by corrupt liars, when they're like, can we do a lie detector test with you? You're going to be like, hell no, get me some other people who are actually objective and didn't already waste 18 years of my life.
I mean, he did that brainwave scan thing, too,
which is
right?
even more accurate.
Yeah.
We'll get into that. We'll specifically addressing that later. And by the way, again, for the people who can't utilize basic logic or critical thinking skills, we're not saying Avery's innocent. We're just saying, like, let's look at the real evidence instead of jumping to conclusions. All we know for sure is that the police basically are very, very suspicious, acted illegally. They're interviewing and coercing people without lawyers present. This is all documented. None of this is like opinions or anything put forth by the documentary. And part of the reasons in doing this podcast is because the Making a Murderer documentary actually left out a ton of information that is in defense of Steven Avery. It makes him look innocent. So I can't even jump to the conclusion and say that was 100% of the goal of the documentary. It seemed like the goal of the documentary was to expose that the trial was an illegal fraud, not really to say whether Avery was guilty or innocent. Now, that makes him look innocent.
They also put the other side, too. They're not always just on one side, like he's
Yeah,
innocent.
they did. Yeah, they mentioned him. Yeah, they mentioned
There's
a
a
lot
bunch
of
of
the
stuff.
rumors against him and all those things. So, but anyway, so let's continue the conflicts of interest. So, this is an article by John Ferak, published May 26, 2016. The Manitowoc County Sheriff's Office could have avoided worldwide scrutiny in the wake of the Making a Murderer series if it had just stayed away from the Avery salvage yard in November 2005. But sheriff's officials never steered clear, even though Manitowoc County was tangled up in a messy $36 million civil rights lawsuit that seemed destined to make Steven Avery, then 43, a multimillionaire. Sheriff Ken Peterson's mentor, retired Sheriff Tom Kuceric. Now, we didn't talk about that. This guy, this reporter is saying that Ken Peterson's mentor was Tom Kuceric. And, of course, we went over Kuceric in the Penny Beernsten case in 85, which was just a pretty obvious frame-up job, I think, to anybody who looks at the evidence. So it's bizarre. It's bizarre. So Sheriff Tom Kuceric, retired, was being accused of framing Avery for a beachfront rape that had cost Avery 18 years of freedom. Wisconsin's extensive review of court transcripts and the investigative case file compiled by the Calumet County Sheriff's Department shows that Manitowoc County played a major role in gathering evidence at the Avery salvage yard despite the lawsuit. That potential conflict of interest is a theme that has emerged in the wake of the Netflix docuseries that has drawn wide interest and has brought heavy criticism on Manitowoc County investigators from those who question the validity of the convictions of Avery and his nephew Brendan Dassey in the killing of Teresa Hallback. On July 29, 1985, Peterson, working on the investigation into the rape of Penny Beernsten, entered Avery's residence and stated, "You're under arrest for suspicion of attempted murder," records show. Besides Peterson, another Manitowoc County deputy who converged on Avery's residence to carry out what proved to be a wrongful arrest was Deputy Mike Bushman. Now, Mike Bushman is someone we haven't mentioned yet, but let's look at some more strangeness and conflict of interest. So, forward 20 years, the missing persons investigation surrounding Hallback was in danger of reaching an impasse. Or an impasse? Are we speaking French or English here? Bushman, who had retired earlier that year and was now considered a part-time reserve deputy, showed up at the police command center on the morning of November 7th, 2005, eager to prove Avery killed the missing freelance photographer from the Hilbert area. And that's what's funny about this whole case. They're not looking for truth. They're looking to prove that Avery did it. Even if they think they did, that's like their sole objective, and they don't even investigate other suspects, of which there are many, and we'll be addressing them as well. Even though there was no shortage of police officers from other agencies not connected to the Avery lawsuit, at Avery Salvage Yard that day, that didn't deter Manitowoc County from sending a large contingent of its own deputies. So let's examine them. So Lieutenant Detective Lenk came in at 7:15 a.m., Sergeant Andrew Coburn came in at 7:16 a.m. Detective Dennis Jacobs, 7:16. Bushman, 7:38. Todd Herman, 7:38. Jason Jost, 7:45. David Siders, 7:45. And Scott Senglob, 7:54. Bushman agreed to lead a 4-member evidence search party consisting of fellow Manitowoc County Sheriff's officials. It wasn't long before Bushman's team made a fortuitous discovery as they canvassed the northern edge of the Avery Salvage Yard near an open cornfield. "I came across a burning barrel which was in my section of searching," Siders would testify. "It was Steven Avery's burn barrel, not far from his trailer." Siders put his hands into the burn barrel and he removed a heavy metal tire rim. "I saw a lot of ashes and I saw a lot of burnt, melted plastic parts," Siders would testify. "It appeared to be parts of a cell phone that were actually melted inside the burning barrel. Remnants of a Motorola emblem for a cell phone and debris from a camera were identified. Authorities believed that charred debris was Hallback's camera and cell phone. Manitowoc County Sheriff's deputies identified this burn barrel near Steven Avery's trailer. It contained remnants of a charred phone and a camera determined to belong to Teresa Hallback. Despite the burn barrel's mid-morning recovery, Manitowoc County Sheriff's deputies would steer clear of inspecting Avery's burn pit area, which was roughly 20 yards from his bedroom window. Around 4:35 p.m., the sun went down. Another full day had passed without any discovery of Hallback. The next day, Tuesday, November 8th, Avery Road was again swarming with police. Wisconsin State Patrol, Calumet County Sheriff's Office, Wisconsin Division of Criminal Investigation, Two Rivers Police Department, Kaukauna Police Department. The Manitowoc County Sheriff's Office continued to play a role. At least a dozen sheriff's officials came out to the property that day. Logs reflect. Here's the other weird thing. Like, a lot of these blind Avery is guilty people are saying, oh, well, there was no way anybody could have planted evidence. Like, okay, fine, you don't think they planted evidence, but how can anybody make any kind of rational argument that they didn't have the opportunity to plant evidence? There were dozens of them there, not to mention hundreds of other people, which, as you've pointed out, the evidence might have been planted not by the police. But can we say for a fact that the police had the opportunity to plant the evidence? If Manitowoc Sheriff's Department, they had the opportunity.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
What do you think, Maxwell?
I agree.
So real quick, when you said that they were searching the property, that was the 7th? That was the first day?
That's the first day that they're addressing the logs in this particular article.
Okay, because they were on the property searching, and they didn't see all that stuff before.
Correct.
Yeah.
And Avery actually let them search. The mark of a guilty man, allowing the police into your house without a search warrant. Oh, man.
Wait, they allowed the.
Avery allowed them to search without a warrant initially when they came to first.
Multiple
That's messed
times.
up.
They didn't
Multiple
find anything on
times.
the first time either, or second, or
So
third.
he just having his coffee. Oh, come on in.
Pretty much.
Yeah,
Just like that, huh?
pretty much.
Maxwell, you're going to
I gotta
address...
start watching.
Maxwell,
these
you're going to
documentaries.
address any of your marriage proposals in the
Oh,
in the
shoot,
YouTube
dude.
comment section? Come on, man. What's
I'd
going
probably
on?
take her up on that, man.
Oh man, send the photos too.
What she said she wants to play with you, right?
Oh my god.
Maxwell's a playful guy.
Oh jeez.
Okay,
Have a
so
mask, chains and whips.
Oh no.
the Manitowoc County Sheriff's Office continued to play a role. At least a dozen sheriff's officials came out to the Avery property that day, logs reflect. Among them, Deputy Inspector Greg Shetter at 6:40 a.m. and Sergeant Jason Orth at 6:55 a.m. Lenk and Coburn checked in together at 7:20. Those chums.
Little butt buddies.
Wait, what? I missed it. What?
Lenk and Coburn checked in together at 7:20 a.m. They seem to be very chummy. Must have nothing to do with that phone call about Gregory Allen.
Wait, who are these guys again?
Wait, Avery's dad, his name is Alan.
Lane.
You know that, right?
Wait,
Avery's
Lane?
dad's
Yeah,
name is Alan.
yeah,
Okay.
Alan Avery. Yeah, and who's and then Arland is the other. Yeah,
And then I think there's a Chuck.
yeah, there
And
is.
Earl.
Yeah, there's a lot of them.
These names are kind of.
By the way, I mean, I mentioned this briefly. I'm going to mention it again. Earl Avery actually said in an interview. Earl Avery said, "Well, no, I'm only going to address this one point about the
Okay.
garage." And I hadn't really thought about it. So here's the thing, and from the court transcripts you can see there's deer speck DNA, but there's also dust and grime all over that garage. So they bleached the garage, criminal masterminds they are, and then to just prove how genius they are, they did what no criminals have ever done before. They put all of the dust and grime back on top in the garage, perfectly simulating countless years of accumulation.
Oh, wow.
I mean, these guys are like the best criminals ever. Not to mention, they're that brilliant at bleaching a crime scene, and then they just leave all of the DNA in Hallback's car.
And then the other problem. yeah. Just that little tiny bit.
Or do they have a split personality where they're like completely mentally disabled? Or the greatest criminal mastermind geniuses in the history of the world? That's Brendan Dassey and Steven Avery.
Yeah, it's
Because they seem to oscillate back and forth, and the Manitowoc County Sheriff's Department's case seems to rest on the fact that they can oscillate between leaving all the DNA in the vehicle and doing the best cleanup job in the history of the world in the garage, and then putting all of the dust and grime back on top.
And then have bones on his property, and then bones on other people's property.
We're not even gonna go with the bones, but Earl Avery actually brought that up first in similar words. I'm like,
Okay.
yeah, that's pretty hilarious. Why was this not brought up in the trial that like they did the best bleach job in the history of the world, and then they put all of the dust and grime back, and then sprinkled some old deer DNA from like years ago as well, just to kind of simulate.
Wasn't there
The
also a
garage is
crack in the garage so like blood could like seep down and below? So
Yeah,
it'd be impossible to clean that up.
yeah.
So they
Yeah.
like jackhammered it out and they tested it and they didn't find anything.
Yeah, we're going to do an episode specifically on evidence collection and chain of custody and examination after the DNA episode. But just interesting points to consider in this case. Once again, not saying Avery's innocent. If he killed Hallback, it seems, based on all the information, it wasn't in the garage, as the police say. And from the brain fingerprint test, the police have no clue what happened. So that's what we can glean from all of this information. Maybe Avery killed, and this is one of my theories. If Avery did it, I find it more likely that the police thought he was innocent and were trying to frame him, when in reality he's guilty. I think that's more likely than him being guilty and the police trying to frame a
So he's
guilty man.
innocent, but they
Well,
want
no.
make
The
him
police,
guilty.
no, the
Think he's
police thinks
innocent.
he.
Yeah, okay.
So he actually did do it,
Ah.
but the police think he's innocent because if he's that much of a criminal mastermind, he's gonna know that it's gonna look like the police were gonna frame him. So I mean, if we're going
Thinking
that,
ahead.
I know if we're going that far down the rabbit
That's a
hole,
good chess player.
because if Avery is really this criminal mastermind genius, the likes of which the world has never seen before, he might actually. If he planned it that way, I could see that making sense because he knew the police would frame him no matter what. So he might as well do it.
Yeah.
But obviously, he's this great criminal mastermind genius, so he did it in a way that couldn't be proven so that all the evidence looks falsified. And then the Manitowoc, they don't care if he did it or not. They want him for it. So and they probably do think he's innocent because why would somebody who's going to receive $36 million?
That's so insane if that's true. Oh, man.
What? Oh, if that's true?
Yeah, that
Oh, if
whole
he really
theory.
did do it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
planned it all out that way.
I think that's the only, if he did it, I think that's the most likely theory of how it worked.
I don't know, man. Watching the videos of him, the early interviews with the news and whatnot, like, it seems so genuine that he
Oh,
didn't
yeah, of
do it.
course.
Like,
No.
it's-
I'm saying it would require him to
Oh,
be a
yeah.
genius criminal mastermind because you can't, like, I agree. I saw a lot of sincerity.
That's like-
There's also
yeah.
weirdness that some people can interpret as guiltiness, which other people can interpret as simpleness.
Mhm.
I lean towards the simple just because
That's like
of
Kaiser
the accumulative
Shosei
evidence.
level.
So no, but really though, if he's guilty, I think the only way to explain this whole botched job of investigation is that the police thought he was innocent and they thought they were framing an innocent man. If he's guilty, I'm not saying that's likely. I'm saying only if
That
he
would
did
make a
it.
good
That's
movie.
Finally, you say it. Just kidding.
Maxwell Army.
That could be the name of the movie.
Oh my god.
Okay.
Actually, that could be the name
So
of your
yeah,
own podcast.
so Lenk and Coburn once again, and on StevenAveryCase.com, people have brought this up. They mention Lenk and Coburn wouldn't have planted evidence because they weren't even named in the $36 million lawsuit. That's true. They weren't named at the time because all of this information wasn't coming out about all this collusion and conspiracy to cover up the phone call. I think any rational person would realize that they would have definitely been added to that lawsuit based on their complicity in all of this. Like, they would have definitely been added. Now, again, that doesn't mean he would have won the lawsuit, but I think it's very reasonable to think they would have been added just based on the information that was coming out. So that's kind of silly as well. Anyway, so then we have Dennis Jacobs, 7:25 a.m., Todd Herman, 7:27, and Bushman did not return this day on the 8th, but the rest of his search party did return. Sanglob at 7:52 a.m., Siders at 8:02 a.m., and Jost at 8:56 a.m. Now, here's another thing. Todd Herman's older brother, Under Sheriff Rob Herman, arrived at 11:17 a.m. The most important clue in the Hallback investigation surfaced shortly after 1:30 p.m. Once again, the evidence was found by Manitowoc County Sheriff's deputy. Out at Avery's burn pit, Sergeant Jost pointed out a large piece of bone believed to be a spinal column and also a smaller bone that was gray in color. It did not appear as if anybody had previously dug into or moved anything from within the pile, stated Calumet County Lieutenant Kelly Sipple. The two items were observed were lying directly on top. Jost did not take photographs of his discovery. Whoa!
Whoa.
Talk about police procedure. You don't take photographs of evidence? Call me crazy, but I think that's a little strange in 2005 during a police investigation. What do you guys think?
I mean, they got cell phones, man. Come on.
Well, not to mention cameras.
Yeah, I know.
Not to mention standard operating procedure.
So that's what they said. They just
Well,
take
we're not even
pictures.
gonna there's a whole bunch of they were using an excavator or
shovels.
equipment to disturb the scene, and they didn't take photographs before, and the whole thing is highly strange.
The one thing that was
Highly.
funny on the trial, they were saying that the bones couldn't have been burnt somewhere else, then brought there, because if that were to happen, the bones would be in more pieces because they were disturbed.
Okay.
And then the guy was like, well, I mean, weren't you guys digging with shovels and like carrying them in boxes, and like, can't they be disturbed that way? So his idea was that was not the primary burn location.
Oh, of course. Well, they were found at multiple locations as well.
Yeah.
And we'll be getting into that in our evidence podcast. Just days earlier, Manitowoc County Detective Dave Remaker and Calumet County Deputy Dan Kucharski were by the same burn pit. They said they shied away from the burn pit after seeing Avery's barking German Shepherd chained up nearby. So these police officers just have no experience dealing with dogs, chained up dogs.
They use the same dogs.
Now, you know what's also kind of strange? Like, they're looking for a missing person. They're going to be scared away by a dog on a chain from investigating a potential murder site? That's kind of strange, too. You find that strange, Maxwell?
Which part?
All right, let's say someone was last reported seen on a certain site, and you're a police officer, not by yourself, with other officers. You're examining the area. There's a chained-up German Shepherd. Are you going to not go by that area where the body could be? It's like, oh, a chained-up dog. Oh, we're not going to look there. Let's look somewhere else. Like, that could be the site of a body, like someone's missing.
True.
And you're a police officer with backup.
Gotcha.
The dog was in on it. He was guarding it.
Oh, it must have been. Well,
They
if
could probably make
Avery's
that-
the greatest criminal mastermind genius, maybe he could also communicate with his animals via telepathy. I mean, like the things that Avery can do.
I mean, he can manipulate that dog and make him do it, you know?
How many dogs did he have?
I don't know actually. More than one, right? Or just one?
Why was he chained up?
So he wouldn't run around killing everybody?
I don't know. I think. Yeah.
Isn't there a dog?
Didn't he have a big yard?
Yeah, it's huge. Yeah, I was going to say that there's a picture of that dog.
Oh, how
I
cute.
thought that was
He's
always
taking a crap there, I think.
Nice looking dog.
I thought that was always the police's dogs, the canine.
Jost and Wisconsin DCI agent Tom Sturdivant chose not to have photographs or video footage showing the purported burial site containing Hallback's remains. Very interesting. Are we talking
wait.
statewide conspiracy here now?
Thinking something right now. So the dog is chained up. So is this a photo that they took, the police? Because then you would see the bones in here, right?
Oh, well, what day was that though?
I don't know.
That was probably, I don't
There's
know.
only one shovel. It doesn't look like there's any
Yeah, I
police
don't know.
officers. All I see is a can.
Sergeant Jason Jost of the Manitowoc County Sheriff's Office alerted others that he found human bones in the burn pit not far from Steven Avery's bedroom on the afternoon of November 8, 2005, the fourth day of a massive police presence at the Avery property. However, Jost and others did not photograph the human bones at the time the bones were spotted and recovered. So how do we know any of this is even true? Because if the witnesses are the other sheriff's department officers, if there's a big cover-up, like they wouldn't even have to be in on it. Like they're showing the paperwork. Oh, yeah, that's what happened. Signed. They might think they're telling the truth about this whole thing. Like, how do you prove any of this independently? It's kind of weird. 8 months later, after Avery was charged with murder, Wisconsin DCI Special Agent Tom Fassbender wrote an email to John Ertl, a Wisconsin State Crime Lab forensic scientist, asking why no photos were taken of the human bones identified as Hallback. We typically do not take photos to document a scene if the scene has knowingly been altered, Ertl responded. In regard to the burn pit, our involvement began with a request to use our sifting equipment. The scene had been obviously altered at that point. So if police are altering the scene, how do we know any of this evidence is even legitimate? Once again, to the people that are saying Avery's guilty no matter what, even if the police are lying because the evidence proves it. How does the evidence prove it if the evidence was manipulated? That's the big question. Now, if you believe it wasn't manipulated, that's fine. But how can you know that for sure? That afternoon, the bone removal was mostly handled by Jost and Sturdivant rather than Ertl's team of trained state crime lab personnel from Madison. Let's let the non-experts handle the bone removal.
They just let that happen, just like that.
This is a strange case. What can I say? What are you going to say about it? It's a strange case. And it's kind of funny because didn't Lenk state everything was by the book and he doesn't even need to defend anything? Just check the transcripts or check the paperwork? That's what Lenk said in one of his only interviews.
Huh.
He's like, why would I be afraid of anything? Everything was by the book. Does any of this sound by the book?
Huh.
None of this is by the book. I mean, there's like layers upon layers of conflicts of interest. Because like you got the same people that actually physically arrested Avery the first time and framed him involved in this case. Like, it's just mind-boggling. And then everybody's related to everybody. The people that
crazy
are
thing
finding
is,
all the evidence.
Like when they were talking about how it would be almost impossible to like burn up the body.
Yeah.
Because it would need like so much fuel, like gasoline, and like it would have to have like a constant flow of like
Right.
ignitant or whatever it's called. But then I started thinking like a barbecue, right? Like a pig roast
Yeah.
or like chicken wings on a barbecue. Like how long does it take to cook? Like,
to cook
that's
it,
just
dude.
so kind of crazy
To
if you
get
think
to
about
the
it. Like,
bone.
yeah.
Oh, that's
to
true.
get
bones
rid of
are
all
even
the
more-
meat,
and
the
human
skin,
bones
Oh
are
my
even
god,
more
it's like,
dense,
it'll
yeah.
probably take like 3 days of
Exactly.
constant burning. That's weird.
Thinking of it like that.
I mean,
that was kinda
the
insane.
only other way is actually like a crematory.
Yeah.
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 Oh, and the other point that it made, like he has a car crusher and he didn't crush her car, and it'd be like, oh well, it's too noisy. Well, what about all the gunshots? Unless, I mean, if there was normal hunting to fire off gunshots at that time, then I guess that's
Yeah.
not a big deal. But if it was
Yeah, they were
inside a
always
garage,
shooting stuff in their
well,
backyard,
I
I
don't know.
heard.
What about inside a garage? And we're in his parents' home. Okay. Anyway, what's more, authorities at the Avery Salvage Police Command Center chose not to call in a forensic pathologist or a forensic anthropologist, records show. Manitowoc County Coroner Deb Kakach, how do you pronounce her name?
I don't know.
Deb Kakach first learned about the discovery while watching the nightly television news. They didn't even call her in. At Avery's 2007 murder trial, lawyers Dean Strang and Jerry Buting called Kakach to the witness stand. They wanted her to inform the jury that the lead investigator, Mark Weigert, along with Sheriff Ken Peterson and 2 other top public officials from Manitowoc County, the county executive, and the corporate council, ordered her to stay away from the Avery salvage yard after hearing that human bones were discovered by Jost. Now, that's one of the most... I mean, we just went nothing's by the book. I mean, this is like the cherry on the insanity sundae. Like, what is going on? You don't let the coroner on the scene?
And we said,
Does
I
that
said
seem
this the
strange
last
to
time,
you,
like
Maxwell?
she could
Yeah.
arrest everybody
Yeah.
there too.
Maybe that's why. Was it that obvious what they were planning? Maxwell, thoughts? Comments?
No
Genius insights?
No comments at this time
So she wasn't allowed to go there, but so we had police officers and like
because I'm completely lost because I have no idea what you said. So.
detectives
Maxwell
were there,
Army.
like sifting through bones. Is that what was going on? What would she have done? She probably would have led the whole
You'd
thing.
be like,
right?
what the heck
coroner?
is going on here? Like, why are you touching everything? And why are you not letting the experts handle it?
Yeah.
Like, okay, anyway, trial testimony showed that about 60% of the human bones were never found, and additional charred human bones had been discovered about a quarter-mile away at the Michaels Materials Quarry.
You know, it's
Nichols
crazy. Like,
So 60% of the bones is not in the same place. Like
Were
it's-
never
it's
found.
man,
we're
they're not
missing.
even sure if those are her bones.
Yeah.
So
Those could be
Are they
they
even
haven't
human
even
bones? Are
they
they
haven't
even
even
human bones?
proven that it's her bones.
So the people that swear Avery's guilty, no matter what, will say that it's definitively proven. That's why we're going to get into in our next episode. We're going to specifically discuss all of the DNA evidence regarding to the case and how it's tested,
Huh.
and how the DNA is identified exactly, and what the chances are of matching and how it's matched. Because most people don't understand how DNA works. They hear, "Oh, it was a DNA match." I was like, "Oh, it's guilty," but the DNA match does not conclusively prove that's a specific individual in most cases. So we're going to go over that. But
That's
yes,
interesting.
to Johnny's point, it is not 100% confirmed those are Teresa Hallback's remains.
The other thing I was thinking about, so like these burn barrels, I guess I don't know what they use to like have it burning. I guess it's maybe gas or whatever. I wonder if you could test the skull or the pelvic bone to see what was actually like
Used and
cause.
stuff?
Yeah, like
yeah.
For
Because
some
they
reason,
were saying
I would
that
think
tires.
I would think they would have done that.
Well, yeah. I mean, maybe they did, but
Yeah.
like because he supposedly had tires in his burn pit,
Oh, okay.
which was
so,
supposed to fuel the
Right,
fire.
right. So if there's like some
Residue
tires,
from yeah
right,
on
yeah,
the
yeah.
skull or
Like,
whatever.
ah.
I don't know.
Okay, so, and unlike the sheriff's department, neither Miss Kakash nor the office of coroner nor anyone in the coroner's office had any prior involvement in Steven Avery's civil lawsuit, Strang informed the judge. And yet, her office alone, apparently among Manitowoc County law enforcement officers, was walled off entirely from performing legal duties, lawful duties, in connection with the discovery of human remains. So this is interesting. So the one area that would not have had a conflict of interest was not allowed on the Avery site. Oh, man. Okay. In the end, Manitowoc County Circuit Judge Patrick Willis ruled that the jury would not hear any testimony from Kakash I think it has much more potential to mislead the jury, and I don't see how anything the coroner would have done would have somehow contributed to a less biased investigation in this matter, Willis pronounced. She was subsequently excused from the courtroom. Now that's mind-boggling. Is Willis actually performing his judicial duty as a judge? Because I would think he should be prosecuted because this is so outlandish.
Yeah, why would she not allowed to go?
That's her job.
I know. It's her.
He's like, it would be less. She would have somehow contributed to a less biased investigation. How is that possible when she's the only one that didn't have a specific conflict of interest from the 85 case or named in the civil lawsuit? So they're going to let all the people that are being sued, because she's not being sued, she's the coroner. There was no dead body in the Beernsten case. So that's one of the only people that doesn't have a conflict of interest.
And how often do they have dead bodies?
And the judge, not often, except on Halloween.
Here's
but
our
we'll be
first
getting into that in other episodes. So anyway, Willis also did not allow them to introduce other suspects, which is bizarre. Like, you're trying to prove your innocence and you're not allowed to say this other person did it. Like, what country is this?
Huh.
It's Manitowoc County.
It's bizarre. And Buting and Strang actually said in an interview, it was a very interesting interview, they said the reason they did not request a change of venue to have the court heard to have this trial in another county was because all the counties are corrupt. Because one of the main criticisms against Strang and Buting is that they did not try to change the venue, although Dassey was tried in a different county and that didn't help. But here's the thing, some people criticize them because if they had tried, they would have been the state would have been forced to say, how is it different? And they'd be like, oh, I guess it's corrupt everywhere, so it doesn't matter where we try them, because that was the reason why they didn't do it, because the state it would have been the same in any county. Although I'm not sure of that. I think it would have still been worth a try in a different county, just because of the jury wouldn't be direct relatives.
Well, in some other parallel universe that happened, so.
Okay, here's a more in-depth examination of crucial evidence used to convict Avery. Most of it was evidence the Manitowoc County Sheriff's Office found that has raised conflict of interest questions due to the then pending lawsuit. Hallback's 1999 turquoise RAV4, found November 5th, 2005, recovered by Manitowoc County Sheriff's Office. Why not Calumet? Key personnel: Sergeant Jason Orth, Detective Dave Remaker, and Lieutenant Todd Herman. Circumstances: Pamela Sturm, a cousin of Hallback, also a cousin of Pagel, Sheriff Pagel of Calumet. We talked about her being a cousin of Pagel. We did not mention that she's Teresa Hallback's cousin, and also a private investigator who was led by God to find this particular vehicle in less than 20 minutes among 4,000 vehicles. Very strange. So she notified Pagel directly that she found Hallback's vehicle on the Avery salvage yard property. Manitowoc County rushed to the scene and retained control of the RAV4 for 4 hours. Detective Remaker testified that the VIN matched Hallback's vehicle. At Avery's trial, Lenk denied he had planted Avery's blood in the front of the vehicle. All right, here's the thing. So we're talking, you want to get your tinfoil on?
I got it on already.
Maxwell?
Okay.
He's got the saran wrap.
So certain people are speculating, theorizing, postulating that the RAV4 that they recovered is not actually Teresa Hallback's RAV4.
What? I never heard that before.
You didn't?
No.
Oh.
I always thought that was just her car.
Maxwell?
What?
That's interesting.
MINDSHOCK.
No, the light, though.
We'll actually get into... This isn't the episode for that. That was just a quick teaser of our upcoming episode podcast. But the whole point is, who verified what? If these particular individuals who have a huge conflict of interest are saying it's her car, does that mean it's her car? No, it doesn't.
Imagine he had that same damn car on his property. It's not hers. It's just another one that was exactly... And they're like, oh, there it is. Let's put it over there.
Or even worse, they know what her car is, so they purchased another vehicle in the same color and planted
like
it there.
Kathleen Zellner did on season 2. She bought the same car and was driving it around.
Yeah. Well, what's to stop Manitowoc County from doing that if they were framing him up? Frame up job.
Yeah.
They're framing a guy they think is innocent who might be guilty. The McGuire theory. That's not really my real theory. I'm just saying that's my most likely theory if he's guilty, but I'm not saying
I want to know
guilty.
more about that red Pinto car.
All right, hold on. All right, so here's another point. So 2, leg restraints and handcuffs, novelty sex toys from Intimate Treasures. I think Maxwell is familiar with these.
Oh yeah, your new marriage, right?
Yeah.
Leg restraints and handcuffs. Okay. Found November 5th, 2005. Recovered by Manitowoc County Sheriff's Office. Key personnel, Coburn, Lenk. Do these names sound familiar, Maxwell?
The butt
Lenk
buddies.
and Lenk sounds familiar.
Like.
What?
Lenk,
and
not
Coburn.
Link. Remaker and Calumet County Sergeant Bill Tyson. Circumstances. During
Wait, real quick. So with that, he was supposed to watch them to make sure they're not doing anything sketchy.
Who?
The Calumet guy.
Yeah.
And he was like on the stand, and he might have like looked away a little bit. He wasn't really paying attention to what they were doing, so they could have just like threw that key.
You know what's weird? Why are they doing anything? Why doesn't he do
I
the
know.
actual evidence collection? The whole thing doesn't make sense. It's like a whole big sham to convince easily gullible people. Oh well, there was a supervisor there, so Manitowoc will behave.
Yeah,
$36 million or not, I mean, they're not going to risk.
it's
planning
like we're
anything,
grown
so-
men. Like let us just search this place, go
Yeah.
over there, and get check it out. We'll just
During
find
an
this key real quick.
during an evidence search that lasted 2.5 hours, Coburn found the sex toys in Avery's small bedroom and had them confiscated as evidence. I guess they never saw them before. I stopped what I was doing. I informed Sergeant Tyson, hey, I found some leg irons and handcuffs in here, Coburn later testified. There was no evidence presented that the restraints were ever used to restrain Hallback, but Special Prosecutor Ken Kratz convinced a jury otherwise. And there was no DNA on them, of course.
I wonder if his wife knew about those because she was in jail for DUI.
Yeah.
So did they use those together?
If you ask Steven, he'll probably tell you. He seems to be an open kind of guy.
Can we? Is that possible to call him up?
Let's get him on the podcast. Steven
Shit.
Avery on
Steven, if you're
MINDSHOCK.
watching this, call us
Maxwell
up.
has another person added to the
To
interview
interview.
list. We got Bill Roush and Steven Avery. I think you should interview Tom Kusarik too, and Ken Peterson. Maybe you'll be the new Dr. Phil.
No, Ken Kratz. Ken Kratz.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a cool guy.
Okay, 3, remnants of cell phone digital camera found November 7th, 2005, recovered by Manitowoc County. Key personnel, Deputy David Siders, retired Deputy Inspector Mike Bushman. Coming out of retirement to frame up Avery. Loose ends need to be handled.
Coming out of retirement.
Wait, who came out of retirement? Wait, who?
Mike Bushman.
Okay.
I'm sure you know exactly who that is.
I have no idea who is it.
He's the retired deputy who helped arrest Avery in 1985 for the Penny Beernsten
yeah.
rape. He came out of retirement for this 2005 case against Avery. Frame-up jobs are a full-time job. Like, he had to retire. Like, that frame-up was just so exhausting. Then when Avery got out, he had to come out of retirement to finish the job that he
Probably
started
got a
in 85.
bonus for it too. or something.
So he led Search Group A, consisting of the 4 Manitowoc County Sheriff's deputies. It wasn't long before Siders came upon a burn barrel belonging to Steven Avery. He removed a tire rim. Remnants of a charged cell phone and camera debris were collected and used as evidence to convict Avery. Okay, 4. Wisconsin license plates SWH-582. Found November 8th, 2005, the 4th day of Manitowoc County's presence at Avery Salvage. Key personnel, William Brandes Jr., a member of the Brillion Volunteer Fire Department. Circumstances. Shortly after 9 a.m., a volunteer firefighter recovered Hallback's license plates folded up inside the backseat area of a junked station wagon along the northern edge of the Avery property, not far from Avery's trailer. 2 days earlier, a team of volunteer firefighters had no luck finding the plates during a search of the scrapyard. Volunteer firefighters were recalled not the next day, but 2 days after. Lenk and Coburn inspected additional vehicles. Lenk and Coburn sound familiar? Why are they even there? Why not just get like the people from Calumet? It's weird. Okay.
Because the other people never find the evidence.
I know. Isn't that strange? The vehicles containing Hallback's plates had no windows. Okay, real quick, and we'll get into the plates in the evidence podcast. Real quick, what are the new developments on the Coburn call to dispatch? You mentioned something about that, Johnny.
Okay. Yeah. So when the mom, Teresa's mom, called the police to report her daughter missing, like 3 days after she was missing, yeah, she described Teresa's car, Toyota RAV4, blah, blah, blah. The dispatcher asked, what's her license plate number? And then Teresa's mom said, I don't know. Because, like, who remembers license plates?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
You're not going to have that off the hand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they didn't have her license plate number on that call. But then, when that other dude called in,
Coburn, yeah.
that was an hour later. I forget the timeline.
That was that was about an hour later. If that was so she called at what time?
I thought it was 3.
And then so the Coburn call was 4 or 5, but Manitowoc was not informed about Teresa Hallback, who was reported missing in Calumet until 6:30.
Calumet, right?
Yes.
Is that what it was?
Calumet informed Manitowoc at 6:30 p.m.
Okay.
Somewhere between 6:30 7:30 p.m. whatever. And then the Coburn call was 4 or 5.
So he called in the
Yeah.
license plate and knew what car it was.
Right. So here's the thing: did he only have the plates in his hand at that time? Because what if he had the plates and then he just chucked them in there, and he wanted to make sure it belonged to the vehicle?
Oh, to match the car with the plate.
We don't know. But that is an interesting point. Now, the fact that the mother didn't confirm the license plate right away, that doesn't mean a whole lot, because if the vehicle's registered to Hallback, they could have pulled that up relatively quick. So none of this is like 100% damning. It's just weird, and it's questions that need to be asked. Especially Coburn's phrasing afterwards is like, I shouldn't have been, and I couldn't have been, and I wasn't. Look, I shouldn't have been.
He's got an earpiece. He's got an earpiece in his ear, and somebody's telling him what to say.
He shouldn't have been doing it.
Coburn, you idiot. You're saying the wrong things. It's like,
That's funny.
Okay. 5. The spare ignition key for Hallback's RAV4 found November 8, 2005. The 4th continuous day of Manitowoc County's presence at Avery Salvage. Key personnel: the Detective Lieutenant James Lenk, Sergeant Andrew Coburn. Sound familiar, Maxwell? Do any of these names sound familiar now?
Yeah.
No?
Starting to.
Maxwell Army.
Starting.
Calumet County Deputy Dan Kucharski. Circumstances: as Kucharski was sitting on Avery's bed.
Wait, what was sitting on it?
Kucharski.
Oh.
That's Calumet County, the so-called supervisor. Lenk spotted a spare key on the floor near Avery's bed. I believe I said to myself, damn, how did I miss that? Coburn would testify.
yeah.
Oh, man.
How did I miss that?
Oh, man. It was just right on the floor.
We should just laugh for the rest of the podcast.
Oh, man. I got tears.
That's rough.
Because Lenk threw it there.
Okay. 3 days earlier, Lenk, Coburn, and Remaker searched the room for 2.5 hours in front of Sergeant Bill Tyson, and the key wasn't seen. But the spare key was found to contain Avery's DNA, but not Hallback's DNA. Hallback's regular set of keys was never found. Now, how people don't find this suspicious is mind-boggling. So they still did it. So Avery is the greatest genius in the history of crime. So he gets rid of her regular keys, but he leaves her spare key in his bedroom.
And then he rubbed his finger on it to get his DNA on it.
Wait, what?
Then he rubbed his finger on it to get his DNA.
So this guy is such a genius that he can bleach a garage and then put the dust and grime back on top to simulate perfectly the look of years and years of dust and grime. But he leaves his fingerprints on a spare key in his bedroom while mastermindingly getting rid of the regular set of keys.
And then he plants the car on his property a few days after.
Yeah. And then he just covers up with a couple of he just covers it up with a couple of branches, hoping nobody would see.
And then he folds up the license plate and throws it in another car. Yeah, this is the funniest one.
I don't get it. How could he be this much of a genius? He must have a split personality between the smartest person in the world and the stupidest person in the world. Because that's the only way to explain it.
Yeah.
If he did it.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And he doesn't even bother cleaning. He doesn't even bother cleaning up the blood in the RAV4, and then just covers it up with a couple of branches.
Wait, were you serious about the couple branches?
Oh, you didn't see a picture? Johnny, show him a picture of the vehicle.
Wait, I thought you were kind of like kidding.
No.
That's why that's why everything's funny, because it's true.
Oh shit!
I don't know.
Wait, why branches?
Because he's a genius. Because he's a criminal mastermind genius. That's why.
Now in this car, where this car was there a tree or what the hell?
I mean, it was on the edge of like.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, nobody will ever find that.
Oh, okay.
Nobody will ever find that.
Oh man. Oh, so that's what it.
Oh man, this guy's a genius.
Making a genius. That's what it should be called.
Okay. No, but just quick point again on that. That's the spare key, so that should probably be at her house, right? So
Yeah.
let's say you're Hillegas or one of these other guys, and
man.
another interesting point. I was going to get into this later in the Teresa Hallback episodes, but she never says she loves her brother in the video she made. Like, if I die tomorrow, she
Family.
said
Just
she
family.
mentions everybody. Like, she loves her sis. Like, she mentions everybody except her brother.
Oh man.
Just I don't know.
Why is that?
Well, nobody knows.
Okay.
Nobody knows the relationship with her brother. So let's say some people think her brother killed her. And with
Wait,
Hillegas.
she specifically said. I know she said my family, but she said my parents,
My sister, yeah.
She left out the brother.
Correct.
Oh crap.
There was no specific
Oh, that's
mention.
interesting.
So
Oh,
she
yeah, I saw that
specifically
video.
mentioned other. So she might have included him with family, but she went out of her way to mention everybody
To
else.
leave
except
him
her
out.
But
brother.
wasn't that video was made 2 years prior, right, or something like that?
I'm not too sure. It's probably around that time though, like 2 years before maybe.
Yeah, we'll get into all the Teresa Hallback stuff later. But if, for example, Hillegas, if they knew where her spare key was, or they found it, or her roommate, if her spare key was there,
He saw her the day
her-
before, supposedly.
yeah, her roommate, well, also the roommate, Blodorn,
Yeah.
Scott Blodorn. I mean, Maxwell knows who he is, right?
I don't know. Who,
I think it's
don't know who that is.
Bladorn. They pronounce it Bladorn.
Bladorn?
Yeah, it's like a weird
It's a
spelling. but
B-L-O-E, right? Or is
Yeah.
it not? Or is it E-O?
I think
I
it's
don't even know.
OE.
So then it should be Blowdorn.
Everybody on there is
Blowhorn.
pronouncing-
Blowhard. Blowdorn. So, if he took her spare key and they planted the vehicle,
That'd be the only place you could get it from.
because he got her planner anyway, and then he's already got her. We'll get into this a future episode. But another interesting thing about Hillegas, he says on the stand, we guessed her password, and then we just found a username that worked. So they didn't know her username.
They didn't know the username or the password.
Yeah, but they deciphered the password, and then they just somehow made a magic username. I don't
Yeah.
know. Whatever.
Wait, the real. So she lived with Scott Bladorn, right?
Or Blodorn.
She went missing on the 31st, but they never reported it.
Right.
And then Scott and
The parents
Ryan
reported,
Hillegas are like kind of like friends too. They talk to each other, and he didn't mention anything. Like, where's she at?
I don't know.
And then the mom called it in.
If they dumped the car there, then they just chucked the spare key in Avery's bedroom because they didn't have the real set of keys. Because whoever really killed her would have the real set of keys. Unless, of course, it was Avery and he did dispose of the keys and then they were framing him, even though they thought he was innocent.
I wonder how many keys are on that property though, with all those cars.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's pretty crazy. Okay, so 6 human bones at Avery Burn Pit found November 8th, 2005. Key personnel: Sergeant Jason Jost of the Manitowoc County Sheriff's Office, Calumet County Lieutenant Kelly Sipple, Wisconsin DCI investigator Tom Sturdivant. Circumstances: mid-afternoon, Jost alerted Sipple to his discovery of human bones in the burn pit not far from Avery's red garage and trailer. Sergeant Jost indicated to me there had been a large burned area behind the red garage on the Avery property located in the northwest corner of the property. He felt that this area may not have gotten searched properly based on the fact that there was a large German Shepherd in the immediate area, Sipple stated. Jost and others would take no photos showing the locations of where the bones, later identified as Hallback, were located. 7. Human bones in burn barrel on Barb Janda's property. So November 6, 2005, the second consecutive day of Manitowoc County's presence at Avery Salvage. Key personnel: Calumet County's Dan Kucharski, Manitowoc County's Remaker, Lenk, and Coburn. Do those guys sound familiar yet? No?
Yeah.
Maxwell? Maxwell? Nothing? Okay. The 4 seized control of 4 separate burn barrels located on the property. Maxwell Army. It was later revealed that both animal parts and human bones had been discarded into one of these barrels, which was on the property of Barb Janda and her sons. Animal parts and human bones. Here's another crazy theory. If all these people are a bunch of serial killers and they killed other people, but they didn't kill Teresa Holbach, how messed up would that be?
Yeah, that would be so.
Insane, right?
Yeah.
Because they're...
Oh, man.
Circumstances. Avery's lawyers Dean Strang and Jerry Buting argued that the discovery of human bones in the 55-gallon burn barrel on Steven Avery's sister's property about 100 feet away from Avery's trailer contradicted the prosecutor's theory that Avery burned Halbach's dead body in the burn pit outside his bedroom window. If Mr. Avery wanted to get rid of the bones from his burn area, he would not put a scattered few in someone else's burn barrel and leave all the rest behind. Strang argued, that's not making sense. It doesn't make sense. No one would do that.
Why?
Making it genius. Maxwell, what do you think of that?
What I miss?
Everything. Oh, you weren't here.
What I miss?
Okay, so here's the thing. So human and animal bones were also discovered on Steven Avery's sister's property, Barb Janda, 150 feet away from Avery's trailer.
Okay.
So Avery's lawyer, Strang, said if Mr. Avery wanted to get rid of the bones from his burn area, he would not put a scattered few in someone else's burn barrel and leave all the rest behind. Incriminating himself. That's not making sense. It doesn't make sense. No one would do that. So let's leave some of these human remains on mine, but let me sprinkle a few over there too. Like, oh man.
By the way, that's how the key was found.
Oh, yeah,
Oh, and we forgot
I
to
think I saw
say,
that
so
one.
basic DNA, like human dust is mostly human skin
skin
cells.
cell,
Yeah.
yeah.
So if those dirty, sweaty slippers that the key was found by, like someone just drops the key on the slippers, it'll have
Yeah.
Avery's DNA on it.
Yeah.
So, like, it didn't even need to be planted with it. Some people theorize that Lenk and Coburn, they were planting the key, not the DNA. So when they say, oh, it had his DNA on it, they were surprised because they don't really know how DNA works. So it was kind of just like a pleasant surprise. Oh, that's even more damning. So, like, we could definitely get him now.
Huh.
Yeah, that key had to have been at our house
So
where she stayed.
any thoughts on the burn barrels on Barb Janda's property? Or here's another theory. Steven Avery did it, and he wants to take all these people down with him for some reason. So he wants to martyr. So let's say he's completely insane. He wants to martyr himself by painting himself as innocent when he actually did do it, and then he's sprinkling bones on other people's property, and he wants to implicate his other family members. Obviously, highly unlikely, but I'm just going with every single
you're
possible
going,
theory.
yeah.
Like, how do you make sense of him leaving the bones in his own burn barrel and then also putting them on his sister's property? Does that make any sense?
Yeah. Was it someone commented like is one of his lawyer is saying that one of his family members did it? Is that true?
Zellner?
Yeah. Is that true?
She pointed the finger at a couple different people, but that was one of the theories. Yeah.
Huh.
Johnny, you want to chime in on that?
Yeah, I guess one of them would be Bobby Dassey, Brendan's brother, because he had his computer all searched and stuff.
We
And
went
there's
over
a bunch
this
of
before,
keywords.
Maxwell.
Uh-huh.
Maxwell
And
Army.
in the original case, I think they just labeled it as Brendan's hard drive when it wasn't. It was actually Bobby used it most of the time.
Very strange circumstances. Okay, so 8, digital answering machine, Barbara Janda's residence, found November 6, 2005, the second consecutive day of Manitowoc County's presence at Avery Salvage. Key personnel, Remaker. Circumstances, that message helped establish Manitowoc County's belief that Avery had killed Halbach on the afternoon of October 31st, 2005. The answering machine message began by saying, hello, this is Teresa with Auto Trader Magazine. I'm the photographer and just giving you a call to let you know that I could come out there today in the afternoon. It will probably be around 2 p.m. or longer. We're going to address all of Teresa's movements and timelines in a dedicated episode to that day, and the witnesses and the ever-changing stories and confusions and obfuscations.
I mean, they could have just deleted that answering machine
I
message.
know, right?
Just like Scott Hilligus did. And
Deleted all the other messages we don't know what they say. All right, 9. Bullet fragments in Avery's red garage found to contain Halbach's DNA. Found March 1st to 2nd, 2006. Key personnel, Remaker. Wisconsin DCI agent Kevin Heimerl. Circumstances. 4 months after Avery's arrest, Special Prosecutor Ken Kratz announced the arrest of Avery's teenage nephew, Brendan Dassey, as a co-conspirator. Avery's garage then becomes the focal point of a secondary search. Remacher and Lenk were back on the Avery property. The garage had underwent numerous searches back in November. Remacher testified, "We found some additional shell casings. We were searching on our hands and knees. At one point, I remember DCI agent Kevin Heimerl located what looked to be a bullet fragment near the air compressor, kind of in the back left corner of the garage. My job was to specifically collect that item and make sure it was collected properly." Lenk testified he did not plant the bullet fragments inside Avery's garage and never stepped inside the garage during the March 1st and 2nd, 2006 follow-up search. "I came back to see if they needed any food, any assistance with supplies, see if I could help out," Lenk testified.
Need any spare bullets?
Hallback's DNA was later found on the bullet fragments. Yeah, so they testified that they weren't in the garage. So if they're corrupt liars, they would never lie about that, right, Maxwell?
Of course.
I mean, they weren't there when they searched, but they could go there the day before.
To plan it. Well, not to mention, do we know for sure they weren't there when they searched?
Yeah, I don't know.
Whatever. We don't know any of that. Okay, 10. Shotgun rifle confiscated from Avery's bedroom. Found November 6, 2005. Key personnel. Calumet County's Dan Kucharski. Lenk, Coburn, and Remacher. Any of these names sound familiar, Maxwell? It's like they don't have any other officers in the department. Like, what's going on? Like...
It's a small town.
It's the only guys. It's like nobody else wants
the
to
whole
work.
police department.
They don't
Those
wanna
two, those two
The
guys.
whole county. There's only a couple guys. Oh, man. Circumstances. A Glenfield Model 60 semi-automatic rifle hung on a gun rack above Avery's headboard. A .50 caliber muzzle-loading rifle was also confiscated. It contains a piece of masking tape with the name Steve on it.
By the way, they saw that the first time they entered the house, right?
I would assume so.
Is there a significance to that? Why?
I don't know. On November 9th, Avery was arrested for being a felon in possession of a firearm. How is he a felon?
Was he a felon the first day they searched his house?
Well, how was he a felon though?
I mean, I don't know. How was he a felon? I don't get it. That's what I'm saying. So why
Oh,
did they
because
use
he was
that?
convicted. What is? Because he was convicted of what he didn't do.
Is that what it is?
Well, it was.
Oh man.
What I'm just trying to say is like, yeah, they did
Yeah,
that.
I know what you're saying.
But
Yeah,
they
why
went
didn't
there
they?
to his house
Yeah.
like 10 times before that.
Within days, he was also charged with first-degree intentional homicide. Kratz argued that Avery used these weapons to shoot Hallback inside the garage. And then, of course, the greatest genius mastermind of all time bleaches the garage, leaves no DNA, then puts all the dust, grime, and old deer DNA back. I mean, this guy's just amazing. Amazing. Okay. 11. Photo memory card. Found November 5th, 2005. First day of Manitowoc County's presence at Avery Salvage Yard. Key personnel, Sergeant Jason Orth, Detective Dave Remacher. Circumstances, Orth and Remacher were two of the first Manitowoc County Sheriff's deputies to take control of the blue RAV4. They saw a memory card for a digital camera. It was an important clue to cement Manitowoc County's theory that Hallback was murdered during her work for Auto Trader magazine. By the way, that's not a bad theory. She also visited other properties.
Wait,
I remember.
So they found her memory card, and it was
Yeah, you didn't know that?
no.
I remember seeing the letters Tertharis. Looked like Teresa or Therese written on it. I looked under the vehicle real quick to see if maybe Teresa was under there, and that was it, Remacher testified.
So you could see what photos were on this SD card. That would probably have some clues in it.
This wasn't covered on the documentary?
I don't remember that at all. Well, maybe just because they didn't show what photos she had, but it would be interesting to see if she actually took the photos of the freaking van that she was supposed to take photos of, and if there was anything else after that.
I mean, we're gonna get into the all the specific data because the memory card also contains some very interesting metadata and timestamps. So we will see. But that's it for today. We hope you enjoyed another edition of the MINDSHOCK podcast, True Crime. If you like our podcast, you can donate to our PayPal. Check the link in the description and check out our social media site, Facebook, Reddit, Twitter, and Patreon. And if you have a comment or a theory or anything at all, just chime in the comments on YouTube or anywhere else. And if you like the video and subscribe to the channel. This is Bruce McGuire signing off.
And Maxwell Powers.
And Johnny Mills.
We'll see you guys next time.